Today, we conclude our walk through the Beatitudes with a continuation of yesterday's theme of persecution. In Matthew 5, verses 11 and 12, Jesus says, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Remember, to call someone blessed is similar to saying congratulations to someone. And here, Jesus is saying congratulations to Christians who are insulted and slandered because of their allegiance to Jesus. Why would such people receive congratulations? Well, verse 12 is going to tell us that. But just a quick note before I read it. Jesus is speaking of those who are insulted or slandered because of their faith. Not because they're a jerk, or weird, or inappropriate, or insensitive, or intentionally politically incorrect. Jesus is talking about being slandered for being like him. Just a little FYI. And here's why Jesus calls these people blessed, lucky, happy, congratulates them. Verse 12, "Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Jesus is telling us that when we are insulted or slandered for our faith, it is an indicator that we don't belong here. We are in fact part of another world, and our reward there will be great and eternal. A further indicator that we're on the right track is that this is exactly what happened to the prophets of old. And for us, looking back, this is an even greater encouragement because we know we're following in the footsteps of Christ. And for this, Jesus says, rejoice and be glad. The same theme's repeated time and time again throughout the New Testament, isn't it? We've seen it in James, we see it in 1 Peter, we see it in Revelation, we see it everywhere, this idea of joy in our persecution. Acts as well, it's there. God's word continually acknowledges the harsh reality of persecution, but will always remind us that persecution is an indication that we're doing it right. We're on Jesus' side, and people know that. And so as we read this, we should look at our own lives and ask, what opposition are we facing because of our faith? If you don't receive opposition, it's not something you're meant to seek, but you may want to ask yourself why. Here's some questions I ask myself. Is it because I don't spend enough time with non-Christians? Is it because people don't know I'm a Christian? Is it because I never speak up about my faith so I can appear normal and fit in? It's worth asking yourself those questions too. But these words are also great words of encouragement if you are being insulted for living a genuine Christ-like existence. Find comfort in the fact that you're following in the footsteps of the heroes of our faith and Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. To wrap up the Beatitudes now, I just want us to think about what it means to be blessed. Jesus mentions that word over and over in this list. The Beatitudes speak of the blessed ones, or the lucky ones, the happy ones. And the reasons for their happiness would never rate a mention in a traditional list of reasons for happiness, would they? And I know that I've prayed many times, thanking God that I'm blessed with money, with a car, with a place to live, with religious freedom, with easy and comfortable living. And I believe all of these things are gifts from God, and I should thank him for them. But I think we need to be careful throwing around the word blessed, especially when it's to do with our own prosperity or comfort. Our lifestyles and affluence don't even rate a mention on Jesus' blessing list, do they? And while many of us are living in a time and place where we enjoy better health, safety, prosperity than ever before in the human history, maybe we're not as lucky or as blessed as we think we are. Why? Maybe our pride can stop us from being poor in spirit. Maybe we don't mourn because we're blind to much of the evil and brokenness in the world, or we turn away from it. Maybe it's hard to be meek because our need for jobs and promotions call us to be ruthless. Maybe we don't have a chance to be hungry and thirsty for righteousness because we're just too full and fat on the trappings of this consumerist world. Maybe we don't have time to actively pursue mercy and justice and peace, and we're very rarely out of our comfort zones in a place where we are persecuted for our faith. When we read the Beatitudes, they're calling us to live lives as citizens of God's kingdom, to keep our priorities in line with His, and to rejoice and be thankful that His grace and generosity open the gates of heaven to people like us who recognize our brokenness, our need for Him, and turn our back on the world's ways of thinking. The Beatitude causes us to see things God's way, to value the things that God values, and to rejoice in Jesus' generosity and love for us. So go today rejoicing in all the ways that Jesus is working in your life, despite the fact that it may seem different in the world's eyes. God bless.